Welcome back to episode 2 of the weekly Football Waffle.
And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about this past Premier League fixtures and a little bit of extra content at the end. So stay tuned.
So, the first game of the week is Aston Villa and Leeds.
Well, my predictions were that Villa's going to wipe Leeds out 3-0.
I said 2-all, but it was both very wrong.
Yeah, very. I was very wrong. Like, you were a little bit wrong, but I was massively wrong because Leeds won 3-0. And
It was a shocker after considering that Villa beat Liverpool 7-2 to go on to them.
exactly. And well, what I'm gonna say is, when I started watching the game, I was just so happy for Emi Martinez because he finally found himself a club where he's the main goalkeeper. He's out there. He's getting chances. And let's be honest, in Arsenal, he couldn't compete with Leno, and he couldn't be what he wanted to be. He couldn't grow anymore. So I was very happy to see him, and I was cheering for Villa because of him. And clearly, well, it didn't go well.
Well, and just Leeds it stronger in general, to be honest. Like, it was pressing like very high up as well.
Yeah, and well, honestly, thinking about having Grealish and then the last game of Ollie Watkins having you know, the hat trick against Liverpool, that was insane. I was just sure they're just gonna go for it again, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't understand what happened. You'd have think that beating Liverpool 7-2 would give you like the mentality.
Well, to be fair, the front of Villa was very, very poor from the start of the game, and Leeds just had the control the entire time. And if you get that, what else can you do? They were just better. And I think Leeds is such an underdog, and I underestimate them every time they play in, and I think I should stop doing that because they're really, really good these days.
And it just happened to be that Bamford had a great game again as well.
Oh yeah, that was a brilliant by him. But I must admit, I did take a little note there during the game, seeing that the referee was on Leeds' side, and that was just a bit not fair. But the referees aren't the best these days, anyway, are they?
No, no, not at all. They're questionable at the best of times.
Yeah, well. And then moving on to West Ham and Man City, which should be your main subject to talk about.
Well, it's a stressful game to be watching.
Oh, it was.
Obviously, Antonio scored a good goal. We can't exactly deny that. Wouldn't exactly say that Diaz was necessarily all in fault, considering that like Antonio's quite a strong person, and you can't exactly push him or anything because it would have been a penalty.
Yeah, and you know what? After his goal, it seemed like West Ham just took the lead of the game, like actually took the game as their own, and they were really, really strong, and it was a bit upsetting seeing Man City just doing so poor.
Yeah, and then we finished the first half 1-0 down still,
Probably
and then
frustrated. I bet Pep was shouting, like
yeah, I can't imagine him being very pleased in the changing rooms.
even if
And
you would be
then
even if you would be losing, the game itself was really, really poor. So like I can tell that he probably
yeah,
was
and
very
then
upset.
Foden came on and obviously scored, which was a good goal. He played well himself. He even got the man of the match at the end. But Mahrez and Sterling are quite obviously in incredibly poor form.
Yeah, it's sort of sad to see Man City dropping points again. West Ham. I said that last week that West Ham is not a team that the top should be fearing of. Like it's just not the team to drop points against. And what can I say? Just disappointing.
But it's just frustrating because we can't score tap-ins, and then Villa just happened to score a bicycle kick. But
West Ham. You said Villa.
West Ham it is.
Well, anyway, moving on to Fulham with Crystal Palace. I watched the game. I started watching the game, and it was boring, but not until the Crystal Palace got the lead 1-0, and then it sort of just you know Fulham had the ball all the time, almost all the time, but they just never tried to strike. They never tried to score, and that was, I think, the main issue.
Yeah, and then like that's just the thing, innit? If you're not going to try and actually score, and you're going to be on the back foot the entire game,
Yeah,
then
yeah, they were 1-0 up, and then Zaha scored a very funny, like it looked funny, but it also looked painful goal where he actually hit the goal, the little metal part of the goal, and he's
the post.
yeah, literally, and it looked so painful, and his team was celebrating, and he was laying down crying on the pitch. I think he's a good pick for your fantasy Premier League team because he seems to be doing really well every week. Um, and then, Fulham came back and they scored in the added time in the second half, but they didn't manage to get another one. I think they probably would have if they had more time, but sadly, the game finished 2-1 for Crystal Palace.
So now moving on to the Manchester United and Chelsea game, which was an awful game to be
It
watching.
was such a
It was,
disappointment. I was excited. I thought it's going to be a big game of the week.
yeah, I thought it would be end to end, full of goals, and it was the opposite. It was
Yeah,
just boring. Not a lot was
50-50.
happening.
Just 50-50 ball possession, honestly. Boring, lethargic. It seemed like neither of the team wanted to win. They were just sort of passive.
Yeah, and Chelsea should have had a penalty as well from Maguire.
Again, Maguire. Another week, and he's making another mistake like that, and he was just lucky this time.
Yeah, they got very lucky because when he was jumping up, he had his hands around. I can't remember the player's neck, but
That was
I,
just,
the,
yeah.
yeah, just
I,
can't be doing that.
I think he should be off. We talked about it last week, about a little bit of it, but I think he's just not in the mindset to play football at this time.
Yeah, it's bad form as well, and you can't keep playing
And he's a
like
captain. That's a disgrace, isn't it?
it is. But one positive from the game I thought was that Mendy had an incredible game in goal.
That is true. But the game ended 0-0, and honestly, that was a waste of a time. If you wanted to watch an enjoyable, good football, that wasn't a game for you.
It wasn't the game at all.
But then there was another game that I was excited about, which was Liverpool Sheffield United, and it was full of surprises. Let's say.
Yeah, and full of, I'd say, a controversial penalty as well. But
As always, isn't it? Why is it always Liverpool that it's just controversial? What is it about them?
yeah, it just seems to be happening, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But
Sheffield scored quite early from a pen, and it was 1-0.
and they seemed to be in control for quite a lot of it
That's true.
of the game as well. Like they was playing well, like surprisingly well. But
let's talk about the penalty then. So essentially, the Liverpool player was in the box. He was on the line, so he was in the box, and he felt Sheffield United player, right? And is that a penalty? Because I saw Liverpool fans saying that, of course he was in the box, that's part of the rules of the game, but they disagreed that it wasn't a tackle worth a penalty.
I'd probably say it is a penalty for the fact that it is in the box.
Yeah.
So
that's sort of my point of view.
It's a soft penalty, but
it's a penalty.
It's still a penalty nonetheless.
Yeah. And then after 40th minute, Liverpool equalised
with a
very lucky goal.
a lucky equaliser, considering the goalkeeper dropped the ball. But
literally, and then in the second half, Salah scored a goal, but it was disallowed because he was offside, and he was offside. It wasn't a controversial, decision there. It was just an offside. And then not long from that time, Jota came in a fairly. I would say that there was also a little bit of a lucky goal, if I'm honest. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't. It didn't seem planned. He was just there. The ball was there, and it just
Yeah, it
happened.
just happened. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then Sheffield United still kept going at it and made another chance and stuff. And obviously, having Addison in goal was a massive help.
Yeah, and
Potentially, if it was Adrian in goal, it could have been very different.
probably. But then thinking about that, as you mentioned that Adrian's better at saving penalties, so maybe it wouldn't have been 1-0 at the start of the game.
Yeah, but then they could have been peppering shots at him, and then
That is very true. So and they had quite a lot of chances if we talk about that. So the game could have been a totally different thing.
altogether, yeah, I agree.
And then another controversial game: Southampton playing Everton. Well, let me start. Everton was just shit. I'm sorry, but they were
Yeah,
so bad.
they did not see themselves at all.
They were
But
boring.
it's a completely different Everton team that we've seen in the past 2 weeks.
And well, I saw fans thinking that maybe it's Everton already dropping. Maybe it's the time when they're just that's it. They had their high and now they're going towards their lows. Um, hard to tell.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just tired. They had two very intense games the past 2 weeks.
What was your opinion on the red card?
Yeah. So there was a red card. I think it wasn't a red. I don't think personally it was a red because he was chasing the guy. He was chasing him, and
Yeah, he didn't change his running path or anything
yeah, his
either.
leg sort of stayed behind the body, and he sort of bumped into it. And that's from the picture. If I just see the picture, I wouldn't see the game. I would say, yeah, it was a pen. But then seeing the situation as he was running, he was just chasing after him, and he could have fouled him earlier because there was a situation where he could have done that, but he didn't. He just kept chasing him, and then it was a red. Well, I don't know. The refereeing isn't the best, and it's just
Because after the game as well, Ancelotti was saying that they're going to appeal it as well because they don't think it was a correct decision.
yeah, and I can't blame them because honestly, it just didn't see like he had his hands up before he even did that because I think he saw it was an accident, like he was just chasing him.
Yeah,
So
and just happened to catch him. But
it just is. But well, Southampton scored 2 goals. They were pretty nice, if I'm honest, and they were quality in that game, honestly, and it was a well deserved win. If we're being honest here.
and then moving on to the Wolves and Newcastle game, it was another game of typical Nuno ball.
Yeah, which is the first half we keep in the clean sheet, and then the second half we're trying for something.
And Wolves were dominating with the possession as well. Even though it did look like a fairly equal game. And then Wolves were taking chances in the first half, but unfortunately was
So nothing.
0-0 still.
And then in the 76th minute, they managed. Well, no, in the 76th they were still 0-0, but quite quick after that, Jimenez managed to score, and it was a very nice ball from a free kick, and honestly, the goal was really, really nice. And they got the lead, but then not long after that, just Newcastle equaliser. And honestly, nothing special of a game, just a game.
No, but Wolves ideally
no.
couldn't, like, they don't really want to be dropping points there.
See,
But
I just don't understand if they're so good at keeping the clean sheet in the first half. What's happening in the second one that they just can't do it?
yeah, maybe they burn themselves out, and then
They're so focused on keeping the clean sheet of the first half, they just can't do it. It seems like.
yeah.
But well, 1-1 Wolves against Newcastle.
So moving on to the Arsenal and Leicester game, Arsenal started with a 4-3-3, and Leicester started with a 4-2-3-1. And during the game, Arsenal switched to a 3-4-3, and Leicester switched to a 3-4-2-1.
And well, it worked fairly well at the start because we got a goal early, but it was disallowed.
Yeah, I don't think it should have been disallowed. The original angle, it looked like Xhaka was actually in front of Schmeichel, like they were saying. But then post game, I saw another angle of it from
Yeah.
behind the goal,
Yeah,
and
I saw
Xhaka
that as
was
well.
he was not in front of Schmeichel at all. It should
Well,
have
he
stood.
was in
But
front of him, but he could still see because Xhaka's not that tall, and
yeah,
it was just a different angle. But well, it was disallowed, which was very disappointing. And I sort of I believe that that was the issue why we just didn't do anything else in the game because
yeah, Lacazette seemed to have lost his head a bit as well during that game.
he was just he should have been taken off. I think. Especially when you see him just jogging around like Pogba and not doing much and just causing issues left and right. And
Yeah, and then obviously Vardy came on,
in the
and
second
then
half, yeah, and he just scored, and that was it. Like the game was sort of boring. I think we should have. It should have been 1-1. I think, even though I'm biased because I'm an Arsenal fan, so clearly. But I
yeah,
think
but I agree as well. Though it should have been a 1-0 game.
yeah,
What?
and well, I don't think Lacazette should be receiving this much hate that he is. I get it. He was bad. He was poor. We can talk about it. Blah blah blah. But then don't send death threats to the players. Just please stop doing that. It's just so wrong, and it's just anti-football. Really, just don't do that. I'm just
And then
disgusted.
moving on to the Brighton and West Brom game. It was there was parts of it which seemed really interesting,
Yeah,
and then Brighton had that early goal, but it was disallowed
it
as
was
well.
disallowed. Yeah, it was.
But not long afterwards, it was 1-0 to Brighton anyway because of the West Brom own goal.
Own goal. Yeah, and well, apart from that, the first half was sort of, let's say, on more of the Brighton side, and then watching the second half, clearly something's changed on the West Brom side. He had sorry, they had multiple opportunities, and it. I feel like they were unlucky when that they were still losing because they should have just scored there. You know, they deserved that, and they finally did.
Yeah, it was a good goal as well. So
Yeah, they got an 1-1 equaliser, and I guess I feel like West Brom had what they wanted out of this game, and Brighton was just disappointed because they should have won that easy. And
and
then
then
the last game,
another boring game as well, just
yeah, last week.
Burnley versus Spurs.
Well,
But
it was again. Spurs didn't look like themselves, and I don't know whether they just got. Burnley is just down the table. You should not be
yeah,
scared.
Burnley looked strong against them as well. Like
Yeah, they seemed very put together and they knew what they were doing. They were really good at defense and like just their defense was really good. They were blocking all the shots. They were just where they were supposed to be. And it was 0-0 at the half, which is again, in my opinion, disappointing for Spurs. They should have been winning like 2-0 at the half already, you know, but they weren't.
yeah, I agree. But
And then there was obviously the beautiful partnership of Kane and Son, and Son scored a fairly pretty goal, let's say. And that was it. That was it. Nothing else happened in this game. Bale didn't come
well,
on. Uh,
Kane's currently got I think 7 assists in the Premier League already, which
yeah,
is
he's going mad. Let's say that.
yeah,
But then again, if last week we talked about people saying Tottenham being the, you know, apparently having a chance for the title, and then barely winning with Burnley at
yeah. It makes you
home.
think no. It makes you think nah. Like, I can't see it happening.
No, sorry, they weren't at home, they were away, my bad. But still, it doesn't matter. It just can't be happening, not to these types of teams.
So, well, we want to talk about how Premier League football's changed in the recent years.
Yeah, it's sort of more boring, more pass to pass to pass rather than long balls, quick movement and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the games just feel incredibly slow now as well.
And
But
hence why looking at, let's say, this week's fixtures, what that we just talked about, most of the games were boring. They were slow.
yeah,
They were
there was
sloppy.
not a lot of stuff happening, not a lot of goals being scored either.
It's sad that Premier League is not. It's not the Premier League I started watching.
Yeah, it's not the Premier League I grew up watching either. But
it's just sort of the Premier League, a new sort of mixture. I feel like there's not much English football in Premier League anymore. It's more of it looks more like La Liga when there's just focusing on pass to pass to pass, and it's a shame because that was the part of the beauty of Premier League. It was fast, it was aggressive, it was entertaining, it was out there, and now it sort of just goes down.
yeah, and now you see so many teams, especially when they're playing like the top six and stuff, play a really low block,
Yeah.
and then so it's just awful to
And
watch.
then
But
pressing really high, and then they're losing the ball, and it's just again pass, pass, pass. It's just constantly like
yeah,
the same thing. And if you have two teams doing the same thing, playing against each other, you're just gonna have a 90 minutes of boring. That's my opinion, and that's what happens. For example, let's see Man United Chelsea 0-0, 90 minutes of boring. It was just you know just I don't know if there's anything to do about it, if they will ever do something about it. Oh, we're just gonna move with the flow like that.
I think eventually we'll probably move like the style of play again. But
Hopefully, but I think it's also like the fact of the managers that we have in Premier League now are also coming from more of
other leagues and stuff.
yeah
And
other leagues, and they're sort of instead of trying to fit in and do the English football, type of game, they're just putting their own ideas from the leagues that they know in, and it creates the mix of boring. And then on top of that, the English referees, it's just something that I think it should be discussed as well, because it's not
yeah,
consistent.
the
Even though there are rules, it sort of feels like some of them are following the rules, some of them aren't following the rules. There is a penalty there, there's no penalty there. Like, how do we just change them all? Just do. I do remember when I was talking to you about that. Let's just do a
yeah,
big
yeah.
referee exchange with a different country. So you take
Similar to I was done in the Champions League, but
just yeah, because I feel like they're so biased, even though there shouldn't be. That you just need to take referees from a different league, put it there. They shouldn't be biased at all, and they would just go and do their job. And I think that would be, I don't know, a good idea. But I wonder if something's gonna be done with the English referees, because I feel like more officials can see the issues game in another game, and I think the managers can see it as well. So maybe, hopefully, something will be done about it.
yeah, I agree. So we want to talk about handballs as well.
Yeah, it's sort of what we seen in the Liverpool game. What happened was a player covered his face so he wouldn't be hit by the ball,
With
and
his hands,
with
but
both of his
yeah,
hands, like he was crying, and it wasn't a handball. It wasn't even a question. And I think that's a bad idea. I personally think no matter where you hit the hand, and it was his hands, it wasn't arm, it wasn't shoulder, it wasn't elbow, it
yeah,
was
it
his
was
it
it
was
was
his
like the palm of
hands.
his
Yeah.
hands. Like
So that's a handball. That's a handball. I don't care if you're gonna get smashed in your face. I'm sorry, but it's football. It's sport, and that's the part of it. And if you can't take your precious face and you can't get a hit, then don't play football. Because I think it would be coming from people saying that, but he was just covering his face. But there were there's so many situations happening in the game that people, like, for example,
it's because
Tottenham twice in a row, 2 weeks in a row now, getting a situation when they're bleeding on the pitch and they're still playing.
yeah, I think the thing with the handball as well, like the rule of it is constantly changing, and like
I feel like the whole
there was talks within the West Ham and City game of like a handball in the build up, to that goal. But there's no consistency
Yeah,
with
that's what I was about to say. It's
the
like
rule itself.
all of the rules, all of the VAR, the referees, the handballs, all of this, and the fouls in the box, it's all should be consistent, and the rules should be set this way that there is no, choice. There's the referee shouldn't make a decision. It's sort of like you see this, you give a decision. Like there's no A or B, and it seems like there is a lot of oh, maybe it was a handball, maybe it wasn't handball, and then VAR it wasn't, but it was. Like it's just lack of consistency in the officials of the Premier League that is disappointing, and I feel like it's lowering the quality of the league as well.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I guess now we could just quickly talk about the next week's fixtures. We have Sheffield United playing Man City as a first game. I personally think it's going to be a quick one, but maybe I'm wrong. Depends on how Man City.
Well,
yeah.
It depends how we set up as well, I guess. And
I feel like it's gonna be just maybe 1-2 goals, nothing more than that.
yeah,
I don't think you can expect anything else from Man City these days.
and I think it might depend on what happens in tonight's game as well against Marseille.
Yeah,
in the
probably.
sense of like momentum, and then.
Well, then we got Wolves with Crystal Palace. I don't know. I feel like this is gonna be interesting because Crystal Palace seems like being the one of the teams that are actually still playing a sort of English football, and it's quick and it's long balls and it's a constant go, and it's going to be interesting to see Zaha struggling with Wolves trying to keep the clean sheet at the first half again. I feel like this might be an interesting one.
I feel like Wolves will win, but I feel like it will be a good game to watch.
Yeah, I feel like that might be a good game. And then we have Burnley playing Chelsea. Again.
Surely Chelsea's got to win that one.
Yeah, but then thinking about Tottenham playing Burnley this week, you know what I mean? It's just so unpredictable at this moment.
Yeah, like in previous seasons, you could pretty much guess who would win each game week.
Yeah.
Whereas, like now, you can't at all.
Yeah.
But...
And then Liverpool West Ham. Honestly, I really hope that West Ham will pull the same thing that they pulled with Spurs, because I think I am that person that likes seeing the champions, the top person, the top player, whatever subject we're talking about, struggling and having a hard time getting back to where they were. And that's why I sort of want Liverpool get bumps and limps on the way. If they are winning the league again, then I want to make it like a run.
Hard, yeah.
Yeah. If Everton will come back again and play a decent football, I think it should be a normal game for them. Really easy to.
Yeah, it should be an easy 3 points, I'd say.
But,
and then I reckon the game of the weekend will probably be United and Arsenal.
And I don't think so, because I feel like it's going to be another game, as we saw this week,
of United penalty bingo. But
maybe, and if not that, it would be just a pass, and it will be 0-0
a boring game to watch.
A very boring game to watch, and that's what I'm afraid of. I would like to have a show to watch, but I don't think it will happen. And then Spurs playing Brighton. This might be actually exciting if Brighton will have the right
mentality going into the game.
Yeah, because Spurs are easy to bottle, and it's easy to rattle them and just sort of stop them from being focused. So, it might be an interesting one as well. And then Fulham West Brom.
Yeah, it'll be relegation battling.
It is. Oh yeah. Well, but it also might be interesting though, because they're on the sort of same level. So maybe they will, both of them try to fight it. And
I think it'll be a boring game to watch personally.
Yeah, I don't know. We see.
I think that Leeds and Leicester would be a good game to watch.
I hope it will, and I actually want Leeds to succeed in this game.
Well, I've put Bamford in my FPL team now, so,
So yeah,
he
no.
better succeed.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it will be an interesting one. It will be the last one of the week. We see how it goes. Thank you for listening to our podcast, and don't forget to come back next week for another episode.
See you next time.